What if the legacy of the Roloff family, over 20 years in the making, was suddenly shattered by betrayal from within? What if the dream Matt Roloff spent his entire life building, nurturing, and showcasing to the world was quietly snatched away in a shocking backdoor deal by his own son? Buckle up, because that's exactly what fans believe has happened. A secret strategy, a fractured family, and a stunning twist that could redefine everything we thought we knew about Little People, Big World. This isn't just a family feud, it's the possible collapse of a legacy. For nearly 2 decades, fans have followed the heartwarming, sometimes painful, always compelling story of the Roloff family on Little People, Big World. At the heart of the show has always been Roloff Farms, a sprawling, picturesque property in Oregon that has become a symbol of family, perseverance, and hard work. Matt Roloff, the family's patriarch, spent decades transforming that land into more than just a home. It became a legacy. A place where pumpkins grew in the fall, kids played in handmade forts, weddings were celebrated, and countless memories were made. And for years, Matt made one thing clear. He hoped the farm would stay in the family. But that vision came under fire. Tensions rose, dreams clashed, and relationships cracked under pressure. We've seen the battles over the farm play out publicly, particularly between Matt and his son Zach, whose bid to buy part of the property famously fell apart in a bitter and very public disagreement. Fans were heartbroken, believing that the Roloff legacy might be lost forever. But now there's a twist. A shocking one. Jeremy Roloff, Zach's twin brother who had once walked away from the show and, seemingly, from the family spotlight, has been making some very interesting moves behind the scenes. Real estate acquisitions, subtle branding, and cryptic statements that have fans raising eyebrows. Could it be that Jeremy never gave up on owning the farm? And more importantly, did Matt Roloff betray his other children by making a secret deal with Jeremy? In this video, we're diving deep into the explosive rumors, the surprising clues, and the timeline that fans say proves Matt's ultimate betrayal and Jeremy's shocking plan to take the farm for himself. We'll break down everything from the early signs to the most recent bombshells and what this means for the Roloff family's future. Don't go anywhere, because the truth behind this twist will leave you speechless. Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. For Roloff family latest news update, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. When viewers first met the Roloff family in the early 2000s through TLC's Little People, Big World, they were introduced not just to a family living with dwarfism, but to a sprawling and magical piece of land known as Roloff Farms. But what many don't know is just how much blood, sweat, and passion Matt Roloff poured into creating that farm, decades before the cameras ever rolled. It all began in the early 1990s, when Matt Roloff had a dream. He didn't just want to own property, he wanted to build a world. A place that reflected his creativity, gave his children room to grow, and inspired others to dream bigger. He and Amy Roloff purchased the original 34-acre property in Helvetia, Oregon, and immediately set to work transforming it from a basic piece of land into something truly special. Matt didn't see fields and trees. He saw castles, pirate ships, pumpkin patches, and tree houses. And that's exactly what he built. Over time, Matt added iconic structures that became fan favorites on Little People, Big World, the Western Town, a medieval castle, a giant pumpkin patch, and the now famous Red Barn. Every corner of the farm was handcrafted with intention. And as the show gained popularity, Roloff Farms became more than just a family homestead. It became a symbol of resilience, creativity, and family unity. Matt was more than just a visionary. He was a builder, a dreamer, and a man on a mission. He would spend countless hours on his tractor, personally handling construction projects, upgrading the infrastructure, and prepping the land for the annual pumpkin season. That season, in particular, became a huge part of the family's legacy and a major event in Oregon. Thousands of fans would flock to Roloff Farms each October, hoping to catch a glimpse of the family and of the man who made it all happen. But the farm was never just a business for Matt. It was personal. Every path and fence post held memories of his children playing, building forts, or helping during harvest. It was the stage where his children grew up, and where his marriage with Amy played out both in real life and on national television. It held laughter, milestones, arguments, reconciliations, and heartbreak. As Little People, Big World aired season after season, Matt's relationship with the land only deepened. In interviews, he often spoke of the farm as his life's work, something he hoped would stay in the family for generations. A legacy, an inheritance, a place that symbolized possibility, especially for people who, like Matt, had been told their limitations far outweighed their potential. Yet, despite all this, cracks would soon begin to form. As the children grew older and started their own lives, it became clear that not everyone shared Matt's vision for the farm's future. What began as a dream to build something lasting soon became a battleground of competing interests, emotional wounds, and, eventually, betrayal. But before we get to the fallout, it's important to sit with that original dream. Because understanding just how much Matt poured into Roloff Farms is the key to understanding why what happened next would cut so deeply, not just for Matt, but for the entire Roloff family. From the very first season of Little People, Big World, Matt Roloff made one thing abundantly clear. Roloff Farms wasn't just a piece of land. It was a legacy, something he was building not only for himself, but for his kids. Viewers of the show will remember those early episodes where Matt, with his signature enthusiasm, often stood on the wide stretches of Oregon soil and talked about building something that will last generations. His message was consistent and heartfelt. This farm was meant for his family. Matt regularly said on camera that he hoped one or more of his children would one day take over the farm. He spoke about wanting to pass down not just the physical property, but the responsibility and pride of ownership. For years, it was a central theme of the show, that idea of building for the future. It wasn't just about pumpkins or tree houses or custom-built pirate ships. It was about the promise that Roloff Farms would remain in the family's hands forever. And at one point, it seemed like that dream might actually come true. Jeremy Roloff, the eldest twin, had openly expressed a deep passion for the farm and everything it represented. He loved the land, the lifestyle, the idea of raising his own family on the same soil where he'd grown up. In fact, Jeremy's Instagram posts and off-camera interviews frequently hinted at his desire to someday own the farm and carry on his father's legacy. Fans of the show were hopeful. Many even expected Jeremy to step in naturally as Matt began talking about retirement and slowing down. Zach, too, had his moments. While his connection to the farm appeared a bit more cautious or reserved compared to Jeremy's, there were still key conversations, filmed and aired, where Zach expressed interest in owning a portion of the farm, particularly for his own kids. He and Tori even talked about how magical it would be to raise their children, Jackson, Lila, and eventually Josiah, on the very same land where Zach spent his youth. Zach's vision was more modest, but no less meaningful. He didn't need to own the whole property, just a slice to call his own. For years, this storyline, of one or both sons eventually taking over the farm, was a core emotional thread on Little People, Big World. It became a kind of unspoken contract between Matt and the audience. This wasn't just TV drama, it felt real. Matt wasn't just a reality star or a savvy builder. He was a father trying to create a future for his children. That's what made the promise so powerful. Even Amy Roloff, despite her eventual divorce from Matt and departure from the farmhouse, believed in the dream. She, too, talked about the farm being a place for their grandchildren, about continuing family traditions and preserving what they had built together for over 30 years. But as time went on, something began to shift. Conversations around the farm's future started to get more tense. There were discussions between Matt and his sons that didn't go well, moments of friction that hinted the passing of the torch might not be so seamless after all. Negotiations broke down. Talks about pricing and ownership turned into disagreements. And soon, the very promise Matt had so often made, that the farm would stay in the family, was in jeopardy. The dream he once shared so passionately started to feel conditional. What fans had believed to be a heartfelt commitment began to unravel. For Jeremy and Zach, it wasn't just about the farm, it was about trust, about respect, about whether their father truly intended to let go of the reins and honor his word. And when those deals ultimately fell through, the emotional fallout was massive, not just within the Roloff family, but across the fanbase. What happened to the promise Matt made to his kids? Was it broken by greed, miscommunication, or something deeper? Because when you build your entire life and a popular TV series around the idea of family legacy, walking away from that isn't just a business decision. It's a betrayal. And fans were just beginning to realize the Roloff family was no longer united in that dream. At the heart of Little People, Big World was always family, love, support, and legacy. But that foundation began to shake when one of the most emotional and consequential chapters unfolded between Matt Roloff and his son Zach. Fans watched with wide eyes as what was once assumed a natural passing of the farm to the next generation crumbled in real time. The core of this breakdown? Zach's failed attempt to buy a portion of Roloff Farms. Zach Roloff had long been vocal about his interest in taking over the family property. As one of the children most visibly involved in farm life, especially during pumpkin season, many fans assumed he'd be the one to carry on that stream. For years, the show hinted at this transition. Zach and his wife Tori even spoke about their hopes for their children to grow up with a farm as part of their lives. So when it came time for negotiations, many expected it would be a smooth and sentimental handoff. But instead, it erupted into one of the most painful rifts the Roloff family had ever faced. In 2022, the tension boiled over. Zach publicly revealed that his offer to buy a portion of the north side of Roloff Farms was rejected by Matt. The two couldn't agree on price, terms, or the nature of the transition. Zach later took to Instagram and interviews to express his disappointment. He didn't mince words. He described the situation as hurtful and blamed Matt for creating a false narrative. Fans were shocked when Zach accused his father of manipulation, saying the experience wasn't about business, it was about control. Matt, on the other hand, maintained a different perspective. In social media posts and during episodes of Little People, Big World, he consistently defended his actions. His statement? Business is business. To Matt, the decision was rooted in logic and financial sense. He believed Zach's offer was below market value and not in line with the investment he had poured into the land for decades. He emphasized that emotions had to be separated from business decisions. But that explanation didn't sit well with everyone. Fans and even other family members began to question whether business was really the full story. After all, this wasn't just any piece of land. It was the Roloff legacy, the centerpiece of over 20 seasons of memories, holidays, and hard-earned dreams. Why, then, couldn't a father and son come to an agreement if the goal was truly to keep the farm in the family? The fallout was swift and deep. Zach and Tori decided to move away from the Oregon property entirely, settling in Battleground, Washington. It was more than a physical relocation, it was symbolic. It signaled distance, not just geographically, but emotionally and relationally. Tori also became increasingly vocal online, hinting at the stress and disappointment they felt from the situation. Fans noticed that the couple pulled back significantly from filming. While still technically part of the LPBW cast, their appearances became sporadic, more guarded, and lacking the warmth of earlier seasons. Zach's siblings were impacted too. Jeremy, who also once expressed interest in the farm, chose a different path, purchasing his own property nearby with wife Audrey. And while he didn't engage publicly in the same kind of dispute with Matt, the message was clear. The Roloff children were no longer waiting around for the keys to the farm. They were moving on. What made this rift especially heartbreaking was how visible and raw it became to longtime fans. Gone were the days of pumpkin patch prep and tractor rides filled with laughter. Instead, viewers saw stiff interactions, awkward family gatherings, and clear emotional distance. Matt and Zach's conversations were loaded with tension. And behind the scenes, sources claimed that communication between father and son was minimal, if not completely severed for a time. For Matt, this was also a turning point. Without a family successor willing to step in under his terms, he eventually put a portion of the farm up for sale, a move that stunned fans. Many felt this was the end of an era. The farm, which once represented continuity and tradition, was now just another real estate transaction. Matt's relationship with Karen Chandler, his fiancée, was also called into question, with fans speculating whether her influence played a role in the farm decisions. At its core, the breakdown between Matt and Zach symbolized something much larger than a failed deal. It raised questions about legacy, ego, control, and the complex dynamics of family and business. When a parent builds something so personal, so tied to identity, can it ever really be passed down without emotional strings attached? Zach and Tori, in recent interviews and social media posts, have made it clear they're focused on their own family now, raising their children, finding peace in their new home, and stepping out of the shadow of farm drama. Meanwhile, Matt continues to manage the farm, now as a business rather than a family enterprise. But the pain of that missed connection still lingers. As fans look back on the show's earlier seasons, the moments of father-son bonding, shared dreams, and hopeful plans for the future seem bittersweet in light of what happened. The Roloff legacy, once a story of generational promise, now feels more like a cautionary tale about what happens when love, land, and pride collide. As the dust begins to settle after years of family tension, broken promises, and shifting priorities, the burning question remains: what happens next for the Roloff legacy? The farm that once united the family has now become a symbol of division. But could the next chapter bring redemption, or will it mark the end of an era? Let's start with the most immediate question. Will Jeremy Roloff step up to manage the famous fall pumpkin season? Fans have been buzzing ever since Jeremy hinted in interviews and on social media that he still holds a deep affection for the farm and its traditions. While he and Audrey have moved on to their own projects, publishing books, running their marriage brand Beating 50%, and raising their 4 young children, the allure of the pumpkin season remains strong. If Matt is looking to gradually hand off the seasonal responsibilities, Jeremy could be a natural fit. He knows the rhythms of the farm, has the public-facing charisma fans recognize, and could bring fresh vision to an old tradition. Still, it would require a formal reconciliation and business arrangement with Matt, something that's not yet confirmed. And what about Zach? Once considered the heir apparent, his relationship with Matt remains frosty. After his failed attempt to purchase part of the farm, Zach and Tori relocated to Washington and began stepping away from little people, big world. While fans still hold out hope that time might heal the wounds, sources close to the family suggest that Zach has no plans to return to the farm or the show anytime soon. His focus now is on his kids, his own home life, and preserving boundaries after what many viewed as a public betrayal. Then there's Matt and Karen's Arizona future. They've made no secret of their dream to retire in the desert, far from the Oregon rain and the ongoing drama. With their Arizona property nearly complete and their wedding now behind them, the couple may finally be ready to live full-time in the sunshine. But what does that mean for the farm back home? Matt has always prided himself on being hands-on, so walking away completely might be emotionally harder than it seems. That said, a partial handover to Jeremy or another family member could allow for a transitional period, one where Matt still visits but no longer bears the day-to-day burden. And here's where things get even more interesting. Could a Jeremy-led spinoff be in the works? Rumors have swirled that TLC might be exploring new ways to keep the Roloff brand alive without forcing all the family members back under the same roof. Jeremy and Audrey have their own loyal following, and their off-grid, faith-centered lifestyle could appeal to a new demographic of viewers. A spin-off centered around their parenting journey, home renovations, or seasonal farm work could offer the perfect blend of legacy and novelty. TLC has not confirmed any such plans, but fans are watching closely, especially after hints dropped on social media suggest cameras may have been rolling again. Ultimately, the Roloff legacy may not look like it once did. The golden years of Little People, Big World, where all 4 kids were young, the farm was the family's hub, and Matt and Amy ran the show, are gone. But in their place may come something new, separate paths that honor the past while creating space for personal growth. Whether it's through Jeremy revitalizing pumpkin season, Zach forging his own peaceful path away from the spotlight, or Matt and Karen finding rest in retirement, one thing is certain: the Roloff name still carries weight, history, and emotional investment for millions of fans. And whatever happens next, viewers will be watching, waiting, and hoping that the spirit of Roloff Farms, the dream Matt started nearly 30 years ago, will live on in some form for the next generation. The Roloff family legacy was once a symbol of unity, tradition, and love, but now, it seems greed, broken promises, and shocking deals have clouded the future. What began as a dream built from scratch by Matt Roloff, full of family memories, harvest festivals, and deep-rooted values, has evolved into something far more fractured. With Matt eyeing retirement in Arizona alongside Karen, and the original promise to pass the farm to his children left unfulfilled, one is to ask, where did it all go wrong? Zach's fallout with Matt over the farm deal still casts a shadow. Jeremy's alleged backdoor deal to secure the property has left fans reeling and questioning whether family bonds were sacrificed for business gains. Meanwhile, Amy, once the matriarch of the farm, has carved out her own life with Chris, distanced from the property she helped build. As the siblings grow apart and the TLC cameras fade out more frequently than ever, fans are left staring at a legacy that feels tarnished. A family once held up as an example of overcoming adversity is now entangled in tension, silence, and uncertainty. So now, the question remains, was it worth it? Was the dream of Roloff Farms truly about building a family legacy, or was it always destined to end in division and regret?